We're talking about Divergent today. Here's how this is going to happen. I'm going to give a quick, brief summary over the plot of Divergent for those of you who haven't read it yet. And then after that, I'm going to talk about Divergent, and I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you have not read the books, do not watch that portion of this video. Only watch the first part. And then after that, I'm going to talk about Insurgent, including spoilers. Alright, let's get into it. So for the three of you who have not read Divergent by Veronica Roth, it takes place in the future and there are 5 different factions of the city. It has like one personality trait, and that's what everybody fits into in that faction. Amity, which is like kind, unconfrontational. Candor, which is the honest. Dauntless, which is brave. Erudite are the intelligent. And abnegation are the selfless. And when you turn 16, you have the choice of whether to stay in the faction that you were raised in or to switch to a different one. So our main character is Beatrice, who is from abnegation. She's never really felt like she quite belongs there. So at the choosing ceremony, Tris decides that she's just not cut out for the life of being selfless, so she goes from abnegation to dauntless, which is like brave. But Tris also has this secret that she's been keeping that she just found out. And that is that she is divergent. Basically means instead of having just one personality trait and fitting into one faction, she actually has multiple personalities about her, and she can kind of fit into whatever she needs to fit in at that moment. And if somebody finds out, then she could be killed. Basically, the first book is what happens during Dauntless Initiation, and she finds new friends there, and she meets this really hot instructor named Four. And a bunch of crazy stuff happens during Initiation. She finds out that one of the factions is planning an attack on her home faction and are trying to get control of the entire city. And all hell breaks loose and things are sad, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. If you haven't read these books, this is where our Divergent talk ends, and you need to leave the video and go read the books and then come back and watch the rest of the video because I'm about to say some major spoilers. If you keep watching the video, this is your official warning, spoilers! And you are not allowed to get mad at me if you keep watching when you haven't read the books. So about 2 weeks ago I decided that I wanted to read these books again because I missed them. It is just great. It's just so great. And did you know that Veronica Roth started writing these when she was in college? Like, she was my age when she started writing these books. Like, she was writing a book series, and all I do is eat chicken nuggets and cry over TV shows. But I think the second time I read this, I liked it even better than the first time I read it. And this time when I read it, I was able to picture Shailene Woodley and Theo James as Tris and Four. And this time, I gotta tell you, I think that Theo James is a really good choice for Four because I was able to picture him, and every time it would describe what he looked like, I'd be like, well, that sounds like Theo James. Another thing I really liked about this was that Tris had like such character development. She goes from having no opinions of her own in the first chapter. She kind of gets a little bit sassy. That part where she said she wanted to smack that smile right off of Marcus. Sass master, man. And I also really love about this book that even the smaller characters, you can tell that they all come from different backstories and you want to know what those are. I also love how Veronica Roth took the typical dystopian novel and made it completely different from all of the other ones. The idea of the fear landscape, how did she come up with that? And I also love how she writes these characters, and it's the things that they joke about are genuinely funny, they're funny jokes. I also love how the different characters have distinct personalities. That's not something you see very often because a lot of times the author will write their personality in all the characters, but I feel like Veronica Roth did a really good job at just writing people. Alright, so let's move along to Insurgent. This book is undoubtedly better than the first book. And how often can you say that a sequel is better than the original? What I really love about Insurgent is that Triss is dealing with her grief in a realistic way. And I'm not saying that in other books the characters don't deal with grief realistically, but I'm saying that instead of being like the strong, like warrior person, she's just a girl who has lost her parents. And I know so many people on Tumblr who have said, oh my god, she wanted to die like the entire book. What a weak bitch. Do you want to say that to my face, motherfucker? A lot of people compare her to Katniss from the Hunger Games. You can't hold yourself together forever. Even Katniss had her moments. What you don't understand is that that is how she thought she was honoring her parents' sacrifice. She thought that her parents sacrificed themselves in this big, broad way to save her. She thought the only way to honor that was to sacrifice herself in the same way for the people that she loved. Triss thought that if she could just sacrifice herself the way her parents did, then she could save everybody that she loved. Let's go over some of the shitty things that Triss has had to deal with in a span of like 2 months. She's keeping the secret of being Divergent, and if anybody finds out, she will probably be killed. She was almost tossed into the chasm by 3 huge boys. Al killed himself and she blamed herself for it. She got shot. She watched both of her parents be murdered right in front of her as a sacrifice to save her. She almost lost Tobias to that serum. She ended the simulation to save everybody. She's dealing with the guilt of killing one of her best friends. Her best friend hates her now. Was unable to save Marlene and had to watch her die too. And the fact that she was literally put under a serum multiple times to face her worst fears. Can you even imagine having to do that? And then you think that she's weak because sometimes she thinks that she doesn't want to live anymore? You have to understand that she is dealing with some real survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt is a real thing that like people that fight in real wars face. It's when you blame yourself because you survived something that the people you love didn't survive. And she's dealing with that. And the fact that she's able to get out of bed every day and still able to sacrifice things for people who sometimes she doesn't even know, that makes her one of the strongest characters I've ever read. So next time you think about calling Triss weak because you're comparing her to things that happened in different books to different characters, you might want to remember that. And the thing about this series is that I was never bored reading it, and I realized it was the second time I was reading it, but still I was never bored, and it had been so long that I forgot everything that had happened, and I was just on edge all the time. And Veronica Roth, what? So that's it for Insurgent. Pretty much just what I had to say was stop trying to call Triss weak and stop saying that she wasn't dealing with her grief in the right way. In reality, we all know that none of us would be as strong as her. And it's like baffling to me that there are people out there who read these books and didn't like them. First of all, how dare you? Second of all, what? If you haven't read these books and you kept watching the whole video, what the fuck? Obviously one of my favorite series. I am so excited for the movie, and I can't believe we have to wait 6 months. I might die, but oh my god, Allegiant comes out next month. I'm not emotionally ready. Nope. No. So I'm gonna go emotionally prepare for Allegiant, and I will leave you now. It started raining. That's why it's so dark in my room. So dark outside. It's 6 o'clock. How do you feel about the fact that it's raining outside? Artie, pay attention to me. Pay attention to me!